En route to a new assignment, we met a 2.5-ton truck loaded with soldiers and pulling a 105 millimeter howitzer, all that was left of a field artillery battery. We gave him 5 gallons of fuel, and a sergeant told me that the 24th Division Task Force was nearly wiped out by T-34 tanks and hundreds of North Koreans. We moved south of Daejeon along a road and dug in. Fire missions soon came in from the Forward Observer, and no sooner had A battery begun to fire than we started receiving counter-battery fire, and several cannoneers were wounded. This was our baptism of fire. The North Koreans were close enough you could hear their guns go off, giving the gun crews time to duck. As soon as the shells landed, our cannoneers would jump up, load, and fire back. This went on for some time. I'm not sure if our guns silenced their 120 millimeter mortars or tanks, or if they pulled back. The next day we were directed to reposition to the rear, or advance to the rear as we like to call it, as the 127 was going to withdraw. We pulled back and set up in an area just off the road that had railroad tracks on our left flank and a hill to our rear. Some unit of the 1st Cavalry Division was assembling nearby to go forward and help the 24th Division, which had been hit hard by tanks and infantry. Just as we were getting established in our new position, a T-34 tank fired on us from across the railroad tracks. Because of the railroad track, they couldn't lower their guns enough to hit us, and they shot up the hills behind us, scattering us and the 1st Cavalry troops. Someone from the infantry poured gas on the air intake of the tank and set it on fire. The tank crew was killed as they came out. Our battery commander quickly got us on the road and moved further down the road to prevent us from being cut off and overrun. We had no casualties, thanks to the railroad track and a quick move. From there we moved to the Qingdong-ni area to the west of Mason. A reconnaissance force was formed by Lieutenant Colonel Chek to proceed to the north and make contact with the enemy. A battery was at the rear of the column with 6 105 howitzers. I, with my truck, was in last place. The column stopped several times while the 4 tanks with infantry riding on them cleared the way of small groups of the enemy that were surprised. These were disposed of by about noon. We had jumped off at 4 a.m. The lead tanks encountered a large enemy convoy loaded with supplies and troops. This was the main North Korean force moving down toward Pusan. Our howitzers quickly set up and began firing. This engagement lasted well into the afternoon. Firing anti-tank guns, the enemy knocked out 2 of our 4 tanks. About this time, the mess sergeant asked me if I had a truck that could take the 250-gallon water trailer back to the rear for water. Coordinating with the first sergeant, I sent a 3/4-ton truck and 2 drivers back to the water point about 6 to 8 miles to the rear. In less than 30 minutes, a jeep came roaring up with one of my drivers mortally wounded, and about all I could get out of him was that they had been ambushed and the other driver was dead. Soon after, he passed away. This information was passed forward. About 5 p.m., a liaison plane dropped a message to Lieutenant Colonel Chek stating that the road behind us had been cut by North Koreans, and the reconnaissance force was to withdraw immediately. It took some time to turn everything around on those narrow roads and to keep away from the North Koreans at the same time. So with the column following, Lieutenant Colonel Chek led us back to Qingdong-ni. As we passed the spot where our boys had been ambushed, it was evident they had driven the truck trailer off the road 200 feet or so, attempting to escape. I pulled over to recover the American soldier's body and the truck, but Lieutenant Colonel Chek ordered me back in the column and to keep moving. I was told that the body had been recovered, but not the truck and trailer.